Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with the Spain news update, and with a new COVID-19 variant dominating headlines around the world today, the question is, what impact is it going to have here in Spain? But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your ongoing support. Now, let's get into the news, and as I said, a new variant of COVID-19 dominating headlines not only here in Spain but around the world as well. And the question is, what impact is this new variant going to have here in Spain? As we can see here in this headline from El País, what is the new European wave of contagion that is already impacting Spain? The new wave of coronavirus seems to be dividing European countries into two leagues: those that are keeping their hospitals under control despite the spike in infections, and those that are failing to do so. Data suggests that places with more than 75 to 80% of the total population vaccinated are coping better with the new surge in cases, while others with as little as 10 points less vaccination have had to resort to drastic measures in the face of imminent collapse of their health facilities. Even so, the numbers in some countries, such as Belgium, with figures of immunised people close to those of Spain, and the strength of the new wave, while waiting to know the extent of the new variant, invite caution in the face of the increase in hospitalizations in several communities. In Aragon and Navarra, those admitted for COVID have doubled in the last month. So the new wave of the coronavirus here in Europe, dividing European countries into two leagues, as we saw in that article, and still not really clear if high vaccination rates are going to be the solution. As we saw there, Belgium has high vaccination rates close to Spain, but hospitals there on the border of collapse. But here in Spain, the hospital situation seems to be under control for the time being. So, what are other European countries doing to curb the spread of the virus and this new variant? Well, as we can see here, Europe brings back face masks, tests and containment to curb the spread of the Omicron variant. The Omicron variant of the coronavirus has once again restricted social activity in several European countries, while more and more are shielding their borders from flights from southern African countries in an attempt to curb the rise in infections. Several European countries have already detected at least one case of this variant, which has raised WHO concerns: Germany, the UK, Belgium, Italy, the Czech Republic, the Netherlands and Denmark. The Netherlands is already in nighttime confinement for non-essential activities. The UK will reintroduce face masks in shops and transport on Tuesday, and Israel has become the first country in the world to reintroduce a ban on foreigners entering the country. Face masks will be made compulsory again in shops and on public transport in England from Tuesday, Health Minister Sajid Javid said on Sunday, marking a major reversal from the removal of restrictions last July. So Europe going all out to try to stop the spread of this new variant of COVID-19. Face masks again in England and other countries with nighttime curfews, for example the Netherlands. And has Spain announced any new restrictions? The answer is yes, and Spain has tightened COVID-19 restrictions for British tourists. British tourists will be admitted to Spain from next month only if they can show proof of a COVID-19 vaccination, according to a Spanish government bulletin published on Saturday, as the country tightened travel restrictions amid concern about the new Omicron coronavirus variant. Until now, Britons were admitted to Spain if they could show proof they had been fully vaccinated against coronavirus, or a negative PCR test result taken up to 72 hours before arriving. The appearance of new variants causing coronavirus obliges an increase in restrictions with regard to people from the UK and Northern Ireland, said the announcement in the official State Gazette. The new measure comes into force from Wednesday the 1st of December. This will affect British residents, but not only British people who are resident in Spain. A spokeswoman for Spain's Industry, Trade and Tourism said about 300,000 Britons have residency in Spain, making it the largest group of UK citizens in Europe outside Britain. Some more bad news for the tourist industry here in Spain and tourist cities like Benidorm, with more restrictions being placed on British people entering the country. You'll need to have a COVID certificate or they're not going to let you in. Now, queues at vaccination centres here in Spain have returned, as people are worried they're not going to be able to celebrate Christmas this year if they don't have a COVID certificate. As we can see here, vaccination queues return due to COVID passport requirement. I need it to travel, someone said. The increased control in public spaces through the COVID passport and the need to travel during the upcoming long weekend and Christmas holidays, together with the booster doses, are reactivating the vaccination campaign against the coronavirus. In some large cities, such as Madrid, Barcelona and Valencia, queues have once again been seen in the centres set up for immunisation after the slowdown that occurred at the end of the summer. This week, coinciding with the implementation in several autonomous communities of the requirement of the COVID certificate for access to hospitality and other leisure activities, more than 72,000 first doses have been inoculated, 25% more than the previous week, in which an increase in the interest of the stragglers to receive the vaccine was already detected. So vaccine stragglers coming out of the woodwork here in Spain, lining up to get their first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, because if they can't get their hands on a COVID certificate, it might stuff up their Christmas plans. Now let's have a look at a summary of the health situation here in Spain, and we can see that accumulated incidence rate now up to 171. Hospital pressure is currently at 3%, and there are 3,385 COVID patients hospitalised around the country, and ICU pressure is at 6.5%. And there are 597 COVID patients in ICU currently. Now, we saw the other day that most likely Spain will have its first female prime minister in the near future. Names like Isabel Díaz Ayuso or Yolanda Díaz are being touted as possible future PMs. And according to newspaper El Confidencial, Yolanda Díaz will launch her political project when the labour reform and the minimum income are closed. Yolanda Díaz is in no hurry to announce what her political platform will be and who she is counting on to run in the next general elections. The second vice president is cooling her heels on the next steps, and this has caused some nervousness in her entourage. But the priorities for the emerging leader on the left of the PSOE are clear. Her work at the Ministry of Labour. This hiatus after the Valencia event and her participation in the Congress of the Commons is making those who aspire to be part of the front line of the project nervous. Díaz is focused on the issues on which she wants to make her mark. Firstly, on labour reform, the main task she took on when she took over the reins of the ministry with the greatest weight in Unidas Podemos. Negotiations in the labour market modernisation roundtable are still open, and the ministry wants to bring employers into the agreement, especially after CEOE and CEPIME decided not to be part of the agreement promoted by Escrivá to approve the new intergenerational equity mechanism. So there we go. According to that newspaper, it's not a question of if Yolanda Díaz will run for Prime Minister, it's a question of when. She apparently needs to get a few important projects out of the way before she makes her run. Now some bad news for consumers here in Spain as inflation continues to rise. And prices rise by 5.6% in November, pushing up pension spending by 3.5 billion euros in 2022. Prices have risen by 5.6% in November compared to the same month last year due to food and petrol, which means that their growth is accelerating in the final stretch of the year, rising by 5.4% in October, according to the advanced CPI data published on Monday by the National Statistics Institute. If this figure is confirmed in a fortnight's time, when the Institute publishes the final figures, public pensions will rise by 2.5% in 2022, meaning that spending on pensions will grow next year by 3.5 billion euros due to the effect of inflation, as since the new revaluation system was approved, these benefits will rise in line with the average annual CPI from December 2020 to November 2021. So inflation rising by 5.6% here in Spain in November, the highest rate since 1992, I believe. And as we saw in the article, food and petrol prices continue to rise. Bad news for Christmas. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Michael Stewart, Ahara. Greetings from Dunlada, Ireland. What's the possibility of Spain following Portugal's lead with a preventative lockdown after New Year's Day? Is this measure being considered by the central government? And if so, do you think that such a measure would have to be implemented by the Comunidad de Madrid, or would each autonomous region have discretionary powers in respect to such lockdowns? Enjoy the videos, very interesting and informative. They encouraged me to go back to Madrid in 2018 after a gap of 24 years, and I have been back 6 times since then. Love the city. Keep up the good work. Muchas gracias. Yeah, Michael, thanks for the comment, and sorry for not pronouncing the last part of your comment, but I have no idea how it's pronounced. Currently, there's no talk of Spain following Portugal's lead, which announced the other day that it's going to shut down some activities in the first week of January. Spain's autonomous communities seem to be relying on COVID passports to weather the storm, but that was before this new variant reared its ugly head. So what will happen in the lead up to Christmas and after Christmas here, I've got no idea. But in the worst possible scenario, I imagine it will be something similar to what happened at the beginning of this year. Some autonomous communities decided to shut everything down, for example Valencia, Castilla-La Mancha, Castilla-León, but places like Madrid did not. So as I said, in a worst case scenario, and I'll repeat that, a worst case scenario, the the same thing might happen again. Hopefully it won't, but as we know, a new spanner has been thrown in the works. One here from Ray: can only agree with your comments about the health service in Spain. The various times I've used it over the last 30 years have always been excellent. The only downside is the amount of time it takes to see my doctor. Luckily, I live close to an ambulatory for emergencies. Keep up the excellent videos. Yeah, Ray, thanks for the comment, and referring to a comment that I made the other day, that the health system here in Spain, in my opinion, is very, very good, or at least it has been on the occasions that I have used it. I had an operation a few years ago and I was very pleased by the treatment and service that I got in the national health system. And I would agree with you that the only downside to the system currently here in Spain is the amount of time it takes to see a GP in some autonomous communities. But as you said in your comment, you can get around that by going to urgencias if it's necessary. One here from James Stewart: I have just come back from Benidorm and got my dental treatment finished for €3,100. That is 3 implants and 4 crowns. Superb. The same in the UK would have cost about $9,000. Yeah, James, thanks for the comment, and that's another reason to come to a place like Benidorm, not only to enjoy the sun and the cheap beer, but to get some dental work done. And as you said, it only cost you a third of what it would have cost in the UK. So good luck, and I hope all goes well with your teeth. One here from Rob: will Sanchez be personally paying for Catalan dubbing on Netflix productions? Yeah, Rob, thanks for the comment, and the simple answer is that no, Prime Minister Sanchez will not be paying for regional languages being dubbed on Netflix productions. We saw the other day how a deal was struck between the central government and a Catalonian nationalist party to get the budgets for 2022 passed, and part of the deal was that 6% of the content on streaming platforms like Netflix or Disney Plus needs to be dubbed or subtitled into regional languages here in Spain. Not only Catalan, but Basque and Galician, I believe, as well. So Netflix apparently not happy, but if it wants to do business here in Spain, that's what it has to do. One here from Alta: love the update, Stuart. I've recently bought a beautiful home in Granada and moving permanently to Spain after Christmas. Irish, and I think it's been a great experience to buy a home there. The selection has been great, maybe due to the Spanish economy being hit by COVID-19 and with the restrictions for many British people whom had got caught with Brexit and have sold up. It was a great time to buy a home and I look forward to a new life. Keep up the great work and good haircut. Yalta, thanks for the comment. Glad you liked the content and my new haircut. And I have heard that there are still bargains to be found here in Spain when it comes to buying a home. As you said, you found a nice place down there in Granada, so good luck with that. In some parts of the country, house prices have been increasing, especially close to the big cities. But if you don't need to live close to a big city, bargains can still be found. So good luck with your move to Spain, and I hope all goes well. And finally, one here from Melissa: had a vacation planned in Portugal meeting a friend from Canada, but now we wonder whether we should cancel. Our dates are December the 29th to January the 9th. Will restaurant and tourist attractions still be open, or will we have to sit in Airbnb all week? Any advice? Thanks. Yeah, Melissa, thanks for the comment, and I saw that somebody from Portugal had replied to your comment, so hopefully that information came in handy. And basically the information was that as of the 1st of December, Portugal is returning to what they call a state of calamity, which means that some anti-COVID measures are coming back. For example, the use of COVID certificates and mask wearing in public spaces. And on the 2nd of January, they are also going to close some services down, for example, schools, bars and nightlife, I believe. And people, if they can, will have to work from home. So Portugal is going to be open. It's not going to be closed like it was earlier this year. Tourism, I believe, is still being encouraged, and restaurants are going to remain open. So I'd give it a week or 10 days to see if this new COVID variant affects things there in Portugal before you cancel, but that's just me. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.